for this. Okay. The work into going into having a beard is crazy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are from. Pounding Rock's Truck Shop checking in with another live broadcast while we're driving all over New York State here. Gotta admit, my days of doing this job are winding down. Tomorrow's actually my last day of doing this job. Moving on to other professions. Anyways, let's wake up the algorithm. Nissan. We're going to talk about Nissan today. We're going to talk about Nissan. We're going to talk about Nissan. So, Nissan, there you go, algorithm. Wake that up right there. We're going to talk about Nissan's rumor, the rumor that Nissan's going to go back to body-on-frame SUV building, which I'm actually quite excited about. So I'm spitting all over myself this morning. It's interesting news, let me tell you. I didn't think they had the balls to do it. I'm still not 110% convinced that they're going to, because let's face it, I haven't seen anything come out yet. But the rumors are that there's going to be a body-on-frame Xterra and a body-on-frame Pathfinder, which is kind of what we had around 2005 to 2009, 2010 is when they phased all that out and went to no Xterra and a pathetic Pathfinder. So I wasn't, I'm not holding my breath, I'm crossing my fingers. The problem with what they did before was that the Pathfinder was basically nothing. Like, there was no difference between the Pathfinder and the Xterra other than some visual cosmetic cues. They were the same all the way through and through, same engines, everything. So it's like, pick your poison. Which one did you rather have? I think the Xterra looked better than the Pathfinder at that point in time. Anyways, it was looked slightly smaller, but I mean, I haven't taken a tape measure to it, and I don't know what the actual wheelbases are. But I'll tell you this much: if they actually do go back to a body-on-frame setup, I think that's a win. I think that's a win. I think that Nissan was actually listening to their enthusiasts and the fan base, to their fan base, and then going, oh hey, here's something completely that you don't want. Ridiculous, man. I think that would be ridiculous. That's kind of like when they had the round table with Nico Club back in, I want to say it was probably around like 2013, 2014, in that era. They had a big round table with Nico Club. So it was the Nissan marketing team and Nico Club, and kind of a group chat kind of thing, where we were able to ask questions. And basically what we were all doing was pushing Nissan for an S15 chassis. We were telling Nissan, the kids want a new 240SX, that's what we want. And that was what the whole basis of that meeting was. And Nissan came back and basically gave us the middle finger and said, well, the kids want the Juke. That's what they want. They want the Juke. So we're going to go ahead with the Juke. And then shortly thereafter, they brought out the Cross Cabriolet Murano, which was a double middle finger to us. And that's basically when I tuned out at that point. I was like, well, Nissan, what was even the point of even asking us what our opinion was? If you're going to come out and go, the kids want the Juke. Well, the Juke's gone. It's now the Kicks, which is basically an old lady's car. The kids didn't go for the Juke. And then the Cross Cabriolet, sold 5,000 units nationwide total, and was the ugliest thing that Nissan had put out to date. So Nissan has a history of asking people, or even, like, as I said in a previous video, if you go back a few videos, their marketing department will put out something on Facebook or put out something on Twitter or Instagram that says heritage or racing history, and then they'll have a whole bunch of pictures of old Z cars racing or off-road trucks racing. And what they're doing is they're gearing up to disappoint you. what they do is they'll post this stuff, and now all the enthusiasts will be like, yes, I remember the Z cars when they were this, I remember the 510, I remember the 620, I remember all these great models and everything. And then Nissan comes out and goes, okay, well, in the spirit of, here's a new Juke. And you're like, oh, come on. What is this? What is this? I'm like, is it that difficult to put out a cool car? Is it that difficult to put out something that people really want? I mean, yeah, the kicks might sell, but it's selling to old ladies. You're not selling to people like me who really has cash in reserve waiting for a modern 620. If Nissan came out with a small, modern 620 with a 2.0 liter turbocharged 5-speed or 6-speed, homie's going right to the Nissan dealer and buying that shit. I'm going to have that in my driveway. But sadly, I don't think that day is ever going to come because I don't think Nissan really listens to us on that level and says, a 620 with a turbocharged 2.0 liter and a 6-speed manual transmission with the spirit of the 620, the size of it, 2-wheel drive, make it a little sport truck? No, we couldn't do that. No, we're doubling down on EVs. And you're like, wow, that's not what we want. That's not what we want. I mean, look at all the other manufacturers that are pulling out of EVs right now. I mean, Stellantis is on its last leg. They're literally selling their share of the battery plant to get liquidity because otherwise they're going to just completely go underwater because of the shit that they did 2 or 3 years ago where they kept jamming crap vehicles down at super high prices, and then they said, well, we're going to make the Charger electric. Well, that went over like a wet fart in church. Now they're backtracking, and they can't just go for the gusto and put a V8 in it. They got to kind of build up to that, because if you went for the gusto and put a V8 in it, that would be like clearly admitting that you were at fault. No modern citizen right now has the ability to admit that they were at fault. That would be accountability. What's that? What's accountability? Yeah, I kid, kind of. So Nissan has the rumors that they are going to go with a body-on-frame Pathfinder, which I'm excited about. Holy moly, could you imagine that? Actually doing the nameplate justice? That would be mind-blowing. That would be. It would be even more mind-blowing if it came out as a 2-door Pathfinder with the triangle window. That would blow my mind. I'd just absolutely what happened? Did we actually get an intelligent, upper management over at Nissan finally that's going to listen? I mean, if we get that, which I doubt, but one can dream. If we get that could lay the groundwork for Nissan bringing the hard body back. And the hard body back not just as a nameplate on a Frontier where they slap a couple stickers on it and say this is the hard body edition. I'm talking like a actual Maverick or smaller sized pickup truck with a 4-cylinder available with a manual transmission. Let's talk about manual transmissions here for a second. What the fuck? We need manual transmissions back. I do not want to drive anything that's less than 6 cylinders with an automatic. A V8 with a 700 R4, I can deal with that. That shifts like a normal vehicle, like would you would expect it to be. It's serviceable, and it's got enough power to get out of its own way. But you get into a 4-cylinder, non-turbo 4-cylinder with an automatic. I drove a Sonata, and I wanted to drive that car right into a lake. I could not stand that car. You could give it a million gears, and I could not stand the way that car shifted. It was awful. So I don't want anything that's 4-cylinder with an automatic. I have my taste buds are completely out of it. I have the Infiniti G20, I have an Infiniti G37. This is my Freudian slip. I want a G20, but I have a G37. The G37 with the 7-speed automatic. It shifts okay. I have no issues with the way that car shifts. I really wish that it had been a 6-speed manual, but the car was $250. You don't really complain about a $250 car. So that's pretty that's pretty much a deal breaker for me. If it's a 4-cylinder with an automatic, it's absolutely, I'm going to walk away. Can't do it. I don't care. I don't care if numerically it's slower on, on paper. I don't give a shit about that. It's not about the paper numbers. It's not about the drag strip numbers. And it's more about the experience of just being able to drive. Because I'll go out, I live out here in the Finger Lakes region in New York. There's a lot of windy roads out here with beautiful views over all the different Finger Lakes. That's the experience that I want. I want to be driving around, carving roads, shifting, and just being a part of the vehicle. That's what I want to be. I don't want to just be sitting here going, okay, I'm holding the steering wheel, I'm sitting in the chair, okay, I'm stepping on a pedal, I'm stepping on another pedal. That's just not it. I could get that experience out of this service truck that I'm driving right now. I like this service truck to a degree. This thing's got the 6.6 in it, so it gets out of its own way. It definitely takes people by surprise when I stomp on it to get into traffic, because it really hauls. But if it was a 6-cylinder or a 4-cylinder, I would drive this thing into the lake. It's awful. So, to tie this back, to get back on topic here, Nissan dropping hints or rumors or whatever that the Pathfinder is coming back as a body-on-frame unit. That gives me some shred of hope that Nissan is not totally dead. But bear in mind that I've been in enough bad relationships to know when I'm being breadcrumbed, and Nissan could be breadcrumbing us and going, well, this is what it is, this is what it could be, and everybody gets all excited going, well, we're going to have a body-on-frame Pathfinder, we're going to have a body-on-frame Xterra, and then all of a sudden it comes out and it looks stupid. Like I would look totally retarded driving this thing, or worse, they made it in an EV, and you're like, oh boy, the Pathfinder's now an EV. Like, what the hell? I mean, yeah, I'm going to catch some flack for not liking the EV stuff, but I just don't trust it. I really don't trust it, especially because it relies so much on outside forces to function that you couldn't, like, if everybody on the planet disappeared tomorrow and you were the only person left on the planet, you wouldn't be able to maintain that vehicle for very long at all. You wouldn't be able to MacGyver that thing into working. It's like, once it's done, it's done. It's like your cell phone. Once your cell phone's done, like say the plug-in cord is all wore out because you plugged it in all day long, and now that jack is all wore out, and you've got 2 minutes to transfer all your data to a new phone before the battery's done forever. It's the same thing with the car. The car is going to leave you somewhere. It's going to leave you stranded, and you're going to have nothing. I call it the Texas Chainsaw Massacre test. This is what I call it. This is how I look at it. If Jason or Freddy Krueger or another crazed, killer is chasing you, and you hop in a vehicle, and you're trying to get away, and you hear the music in the background, and you know that killer is lurking somewhere, would you be able to get that car started in time to get away? Or would you have to wait for it to boot up, or wait for it to charge, or wait for the welcome screen to play, and then for it to load all your fucking features and stuff before you can take off? I mean, think about it. You get in an old Chevy van from the 70s, and that's what the whole concept is. I mean, you think about it. You're Jamie Lee Curtis, and you're trying to get away from the killer, and you hop in a Chevy van, and you just crank, and then finally, in the last second before the knife comes through the door, the thing fires up, you slam it and drive, and you go. That's the test. That is the test. That is the test that I want. My Subaru would fail that test because it's push button start. It's push button start, so I know for a fact that I'm going to sit there, I'm going to press a button, and the computer's going to be like, I guess I got to start. Okay, here we go. Let's get going. Then it's leisurely, Like, at least this truck here has got a key, so I could crank the crap out of it until it actually tried to fire, or at least get it to putt. The Infinity, my Infinity G37, that would fail the Texas Chainsaw Massacre test too, because it's push button, and I've had it fail on me because the battery was just enough to crank it for a second, but not enough to crank it over, and then all of a sudden, it's just. It just quits. It stops trying to crank. You don't get that little, because you get those older cars and you get down to that point on the battery and you're just like, it's just enough. It just kicks it just enough that it fires it up and it goes. And, you know, I'm like, oh, thank God. And then you just let the alternator charge the battery back up from there. This thing here might do that. It might also be like low battery, not starting, you know, low crank voltage, whatever. But that's the kind of technology that we don't want. Because if we are heading into an apocalypse, awesome synchronator. If we are heading into an apocalypse, I want a vehicle that can be configured for an apocalypse. I mean, everything on YouTube is the apocalypse is coming. The zombies are coming. Life as we know it is going to be done and over with. You're going to be fighting for scraps on the street. You're going to be poor. You're going to be homeless and all this. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to go and live out in the woods somewhere, I would like a capable vehicle that can go out into the woods somewhere, not one that's like can't handle going off, you know, a regular trail. And the Pathfinder, the original Pathfinder, you had a manual four-wheel drive shifter. You would slam it into four-wheel drive and it would go. And same with the Frontier, the first-gen Frontier. Same with the first-gen Xterra. Slam them into four-wheel drive and they go, no questions asked. Second-gen Frontier, I've seen it where if the ABS sensors don't function properly, no four-wheel drive for you. And you're like, well, what the fuck? Because you got this little rotary switch here. You're not manually slamming anything anywhere. I miss that manual slamming shit into gear. My new Chevy, well, it's not a new Chevy, it's an 89 Scottsdale, but that's a vacuum actuated, so it does have a lever, so you actually technically are slamming it into four-wheel drive, but you got to sit there and wait for an electrical actuator to do it. Even that's a little bit on the disappointing side. So things that they need to avoid, things that Nissan needs to avoid if they're going to do this and do this right. They need to avoid any CVT transmissions. They need to avoid making it an EV of any kind. They need to avoid putting in like a turbocharged anything really. Give it a proper 6-cylinder, because these 4-cylinder turbos, well, look at GM. GM can't keep them together. Look at the Spark, look at all the tracks and all these. Look, they're garbage. You know, they're making up for power that you could have just easily. I'd rather have a lazy 6-cylinder just cruising down the road with his hands behind its head going, piece of cake, rather than a completely like squirrely 4-cylinder that's like, well, I'm going to be wore out in 30,000 miles because I'm always running at, you know, breakneck speed. You know, I don't want a 4-cylinder to act like it just had 18 cups of coffee, you know, for a daily driver. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. You know, for a race car, yeah, okay. For a weekend enthusiast vehicle, maybe an autocross car, sure, okay, fine. But for your daily driver, you can't do it. You just can't do it. It's not reliable enough to be a daily driver. And Nissan's biggest thing right now is trying to get customers back, because Nissan's name is in them for quality and reliability. That is absolutely, they cannot deny that they are absolutely in the mud. And so what they need to do, and as I said this in previous videos, they need to go back to their roots. They need a 510, a 620, and a Z car, and a Pathfinder. That's what they need. Just make it that, keep it that, keep it high quality. High quality, I mean like quality where people are like, yo, I had this Pathfinder, it was a 2027 Pathfinder, and I only brought it to the dealer for oil changes. Nothing ever broke on the thing. It was ready to go at a moment's notice. I'm telling my friend this, their friend's telling them this. All of a sudden, Edmunds is writing articles about how the Pathfinder is one of the most reliable vehicles ever made. It's fantastic for the money, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what happens? Nissan overtakes Toyota on the reliability scale, and now's a good time to do it, because Toyota's having a lot of problems right now. They have a lot of stupid management making stupid decisions, and they have a lot of poor quality stuff coming out, which is ruining the taste that fanatic Toyota owners are having for their cars. Because they're even saying the Lexus of today is not the Lexus of 1997. And I'll agree, it's not. They over-engineered it, they got greedy, and now they got unhappy customers. It's that simple. That's just how it happens. If you've got an unreliable product and people's lives depend on it, And I mean, not just in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of way. I mean, like, I got to get to work because, you know, Papa's got to put money on the table to pay the bills. And it can't do that without being in the dealer for, you know, weeks at a time, or getting a replacement engine. I mean, look at Hyundai and Kia. Oh my God, I would never touch one of those products. Those are terrible. And the problem is that Kia's got some great looking vehicles. They got some really, really cool drawings of vehicles. They got a great design team for designing interesting looking vehicles. Their problem is that they have the crappiest engine department that has ever walked the face of this planet. It just, even 10 years later, the GDI engines are absolute trash. So what we got here? I've been wanting the second gen Frontiers supercharged, but they are so rare, and I don't have the necessity for it. Are they unreliable? Well, the supercharged Frontiers, I don't think the second gens were ever available as a supercharged unit. You might be able to get something through like Jim Wolf technology to make it an aftermarket unit, or something like a Whipple, or an aftermarket unit, but they're not. That's not a factory unit. The only ones that came factory supercharged were the first gens, and I would say they were just as reliable as the regular non-supercharged, the normally aspirated ones. It all ties down into maintenance. The VG30 and the VG33 engine, they had made them for so many years that the reliability factor was baked into it, and everybody knew what they were getting into. So you knew that you were doing a timing belt at 60,000 miles on the early VGs. You knew you were doing a timing belt at 100,000 at the later VGs. As long as you did that and you maintained good oil changes and you put decent fuel through it, those engines were pretty reliable, and you weren't like banging it off the rev limiter all day like these kids like to do for their, street takeovers and shit. I find that the VG engine mechanically is a very sound engine. The VQ engine, same way, very sound engine, although Nissan did have the oil gallery gasket problems on some of them that they did fix. I think they fixed that by 2014. Unfortunately, by 2010, I don't know if it's ever been done. I assume it's on borrowed time. The whole car is on borrowed time. But the car is 16 years old. It's got 230, almost 240,000 miles on it. I don't think it owes the world anything, and what I like about it is how much interchangeability that car has with like the Z car and the other G series cars, and even to a degree the M series cars. I like that Nissan needs to also kind of figure that in as well, because the Z cars and the 510s and the 610s and the 620s and the 710s and all that from the 70s, the L series engine is an L series engine. It's just whether it's a 4 or a 6, but all those pieces, for the most part, were pretty interchangeable. I think that when they went to the L20, that the deck got a little higher on it, just because of the increase in stroke. But for the most part, the oil pumps were the same, the clutches were the same, all the engine mounts were pretty much the same, all that stuff. So there was a level of interchangeability there. Nissan got too specific with this, crossover stuff. And it wiped out all the fun that you used to have with your old Nissan vehicles. I mean, look at the hardbody fanatics, man. If Nissan's going to be smart about this, and I hope that they are, but we'll see. Just look at the hardbody society and just see how much information is shared between hardbody owners, the community that's built around it, and all the different custom jobs. I mean, you got hardbodies that are rock crawlers, you got low riders, you got, sport trucks, you got drift trucks, you got a whole bunch, you got work trucks, you got show trucks. I mean, if there was ever a huge palette of colors to choose from and to say, this is what we want, we'll take a little bit of each one of these colors and make a new hard body out of it, and make all these people want to not only keep their classics, because, that's the other thing. You don't want to, talk me out of my old truck. You want me to have the new Frontier in the driveway and the classic in the garage, so then I can really talk it up. You want to turn me into that guy that's like, I've got the new Corvette, the 2028 Corvette, and I got the 63 Corvette, I'm a Corvette guy. I'm not a Corvette guy, by the way, but you know, but the same idea. You want to have like some kind of like loyalty, enthusiasm, and excitement about that particular thing. If that's what you like. So me, my personal collection right now, I'm missing one piece, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get one because the prices are going way high now. But I own a 521, a 720, and a D21. Actually, I own a few D21s. I'm missing a 620. I'd love to have a 620 in the fleet, but as I said, the prices are going high. If I want to buy one in my price range, it's going to be a rusted out piece of crap. But look at that. That says something about me as a person. That says that I started out, my first pickup truck was a 720 back in mid 1990s. I had a 1981 Datsun ST King Cab, 2-wheel drive. And I didn't appreciate it fully at the time, but I knew I liked Nissan pickups, and I did like the 720. So I have another 720 now. This is my third 720 that I've got in fleet right now. That means, from a Nissan marketing research perspective, that means that I might be an enthusiast. That means that I might want to continue buying them and continue having them in the collection. So I'm lacking a D22. I like the D22, but I have not had any like urge to get one yet. I had one back in early 2011, 2012-ish, whatever. I had a 4-wheel drive SEV6. It was a nice truck. I broke it. I ended up trading it in, and you know, we had the gas crisis and all that stuff, so that truck really wasn't like the right thing for the job. So I ended up sending it down the road. But I regret that. But I do think that the D22 is the last Datsun. It is the last Datsun because it is body on frame, torsion bar suspension. If you look at the lineage and follow it back, it's got the same structure and bones as my 521. So I consider it the final Datsun, the last Datsun. Might not be the prettiest, but it's definitely there. Hey, look, it's Lane. A lot of new car prices kill enthusiasts too. Oh yeah. I've looked at newer Fronties, and I'm not paying almost $40,000 for a base model with just 4-wheel drive. You're absolutely right. People don't want to pay 30, 40, 50 grand. Here we go, 6.6 power. Yeah. The only redeeming quality of this truck is that I can jump up to 80 like instantly. Yeah, that's the other thing that Nissan's got. So I drove by the Nissan dealer over here in the town nearby where I live, and they've got a Frontier on the front lot right now, and I like the King Cab Frontier. I think it looks good. It's not the newest one. It's not a hard body edition or anything like that. But I'm sorry about any road noise, by the way, on the throughway. Even in used form, and I think this one's 2022, 2023, so it's already 3 years old. $35,000. Now, to put it in perspective, I bought my house for $83,000. I've paid it down. I'm at $60,000 now for what I owe on the house. So the truck would be worth half my house. That's insane. I'm sorry. But a 3-year-old Nissan, to me, King Cab, 4-wheel drive, and let's assume it's got less than 60,000 miles on it. To me, my price range would be about 20 to 25, not 35. You're $10,000 high. And then a new one, I don't even care. I remember, when was this? This was probably about 2013, I think it was. I went shopping for a new Frontier. I actually put one together on the website because I knew what I wanted. And I chose the color, I chose all the accessories, and then I printed out the page and I took it to the dealer. And I think when it was all said and done, all the features that I got for it, it was only $19,000 for a new unit. And that was a 4-wheel drive. But then we're talking pre-COVID prices and everything like that. Actually kind of reasonable. And you can see. We got another comment. It says, oh yeah, I heard some EPA regulations are getting deleted. That's a good thing. You should be lowering new car payment prices by $1,000. Yeah. And it might bring some smaller vehicles, bring some smaller trucks. I don't know the details of that. Yes, I've heard that the EPA has been rolled back in the current administration, which is very good, very good. They were strangling, and I think it was on purpose. The EPA definitely doing what it was doing. I think it was on purpose because the mindset was we want to get the internal combustion engine out of existence, and it was working. And you think about the mindset here is that we were, they were trying to force these down our throat, and nobody wanted it. They were like treating it like it was Robitussin. You're like, ooh, yeah, it might be okay for some, but it's definitely not for me. And in the end, when you do the math on it anyways, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, yeah, it makes sense if you're like a little old lady and you might go out to the grocery store once a week and you don't want to pay for gas. Okay, that's great. But like imagine me driving this service truck around in an EV form. I'd probably spend more time on the side of the road or charging than actually getting my job done. And I've seen it. I was in the trucking industry for 20 years. In 2006 is when the first emissions regulations came out for heavy trucking. And that's when you started seeing EGR valves installed. And then shortly after that, then you started seeing the DPFs and all that SCR stuff come out. And from there, not only did you see the reliability factor of these trucks go way, way down, it squeezed out all the owner-operators as well. So now all the owner-operators are gone. Or if you do see an owner-operator, they're driving a Peterbilt 379 that's 35 years old because they just keep rebuilding them. And that's what's great. So that truck is not in the scrapyard. It's not in the landfill. It has been rebuilt. It has paid itself off 100 times, and it owes the guy nothing. And it's not the initial impact that it had on the environment has long been averaged out because the truck has got that longevity. You're not trying to squeeze all of its emissions into a 5-year period and then you're gone. You've spread that emissions out over 35 years. And that's the way it should be. You should be able to rebuild your own stuff. So if Nissan, good tying it back, because I keep going off topic here, but tying it back, Nissan needs to not only bring this body-on-frame Pathfinder to reality, but they need to make it so it's fixable too. You can't be like, okay, here's your body-on-frame Pathfinder, but you got to bring a service tech with you and a laptop and all these special service tools just to replace an axle nut out on the trail somewhere. Because people are going to trail ride these things, and that's the whole point. That's what it is. You want an off-road capable vehicle. Well, to be off-road capable, and I say capable, means that it needs to be fixable off-road because it's not like nothing ever goes wrong when you're off-road. So I don't want to carry a laptop around with me where I'm going. So, because the whole point to me, and I said this in my video that I put out yesterday when it came to trail riding on a snowmobile, you're doing it to get away from all this crap. You're trail riding because you want to get away from society. You want to get away from the daily grind of stuff. You don't want to have to bring that crap with you to be able to get from point A to point B. I don't want to be like, well, Facebook doesn't approve of me driving my truck down this trail, so Zuckerberg had it shut down, and now I got to call the dealer and have them come out onto the trail and tow me out. The code was X, Y, and Z or whatever. That's stupid. That's stupid. I think that would defeat a lot of it. That would turn a lot of people away. Because right now, if the marketing research or the marketing researchers were actually doing their job correctly, they would realize how hot the used market is for older vehicles. Pre-95 vehicles are hot ticket items right now. They are, because they're fixable, and that's the main thing. They're fixable, and they don't have all that crap installed on them. So you actually still have a smidgen of freedom Now they're trying desperately to, in the background, work against us by making parts unavailable. And they're making it so it's more worth for a junkyard to crush a car than it would be to sell the part off of it, because they don't want to sit there and hold that inventory indefinitely waiting for you to come along to buy that one part that you need. So they're actively working against us to try and get rid of it. The cash for clunkers was another one. That was a very active way of saying we're going to get these vehicles off the road because we want to force feed you into this new crap. But people vote with their dollars, and I like that. I like the fact that you can still vote with your dollars. Bring it on, because, I mean, if you don't make what people want, you either have to take a bailout and look like a retard, or you close your doors and you look like a retard. I mean, Harley Davidson right now, perfect example of not listening to their customers, taking their customers for granted, hating their customers, hating their own clientele base, and trying to generate a new clientele base. Absolutely. Tractor Supply was another one. Tractor Supply learned very quick, and they recovered, but they were off on the wrong direction. Target may not be around for much longer, because Target played that game, the FAFO, and well, obviously they're finding out. Nissan, I hope, really doesn't do the FAFO too much longer, because they really have a very bad track record. That's 20 years for Nissan has been absolutely awful. With the Gone being a criminal and then disappearing in a sound engineering box or whatever and heading to Lebanon after embezzling millions of dollars and bringing us, what did he bring us? Oh, big Ultima Energy. That's what he brought. We didn't. The Ultima was actually a slightly respectable vehicle before Gone came along, and now it's big Ultima Energy. What else did he do? He made the Maxima the ugliest it's ever been. I mean, the bucktooth Maxima from 2005. Oh, God, what was that? That's terrible. The Ultima has not looked good in 20 plus years. And when you think about it, 20 plus years. So that era, and then all the CVTs, the insistence on those Jetco CVTs, telling us what we want, not what we want. You know, we're telling you what we want. If I want to buy a Nissan, here's the list of things that I want to see. And they're like, no. What you want is the Juke. I don't want the Juke. Get the hell out of here with that stuff. Look at me. Do I look like a Juke customer to you? Yeah. Now, maybe if it was like $250 and it was the only thing that I had to drive, yeah, I would swallow my pride and drive it. But, you know, and I have done that. I drove a 5-speed Versa for 6 years. Swallowed my pride. Because money is more important to me sometimes. And I had to save money, so that was the way I did it. I went from a vehicle that was averaging 19 miles to the gallon to one that was averaging 40 miles to the gallon. But those were the times. Now I'm in a little bit better position in my life, so I've spread out, and I have a collection of vehicles. I mean, I have 9 vehicles, which is ridiculous. And sometimes I just want to get rid of all of them and go to a nice, good vehicle. But when you look at the field, I don't want to do that. And if I was going to add the body-on-frame Pathfinder, I would make that would be the daily driver. And I wouldn't want to have it where I got rid of all my classics. I want to keep my classics. That's how they should do it. Oh boy. See a lot of brake lights up ahead here. People just don't know how to drive anymore. So I'm leaving this industry here. Tomorrow's my last day. I'm going back into the trucking industry. Yay! Well, it's better money. It's better money for what I do, and I'm already good at the trucking industry. I might have to take a little bit of refresher courses, but for the most part, that's pretty good. Anyways, we got another comment here which says he ruined the Pathfinder too. Oh, he definitely did. Went from the body on frame, basically, and he jacked up the Maxima. I agree completely. It was all mismanagement of names. Nameplates that were mismanaged. I'm glad that they didn't bring back nameplates like the Stanza. I'm glad they didn't bring in like the Bluebird. I'm glad, any of that. got a question here that says, have you ever worked on a diesel Pathfinder? I heard there are a lot of them in Mexico. That's true. There's a diesel market for those in Mexico. I have not had my hands on any diesel Pathfinders around here. I know that there's some of those silly fire trucks that people have brought over from Japan that seem to be on cars and bids all the time because they can't sell them. But I personally have not turned any wrenches on a diesel. I would do a diesel 720. Talk about a vehicle that would last forever and get like 100 miles to the gallon. It's crazy. Those seem to be the only ones that survive too, because nobody wanted to have them and nobody wanted to beat on them. But now that people realize that what the potential of diesel is, I'm sure they're getting bought up and used up just the same. I don't know. I got a small list of cars that I still want before I die. I want a Datsun 610 really bad. I'd love a two-door, no-post coupe, but those are such a sexy car, and I'm sure I'd be paying out the ass for them. I would take a four-door sedan. That's actually the car that I grew up in. My mom had a 73 Datsun 610 when I was growing up. That was the first car I ever rode around in. My dad, he had one of those Pinto-based Mustangs for a little while. He hated it, and then he ended up with a brand new 1980 or 81 Datsun 210. So the first two cars that I really remember were a Datsun 610 and a Datsun 210. I don't really have much interest in a 210 so much. I mean, I'd take one, but a 610 would be awesome. I'd love to have a 610 and a Datsun 620. I would absolutely own a Datsun 620 for sure. Those are like the two at the top of my list, but there's so many that I would want to own. And it would be great. You know what? I was thinking about this. If Nissan could steal this idea. Look at this guy coming over to my lane. He even got his lane departure lights on his mirror. You can clearly see it, and he's still coming over into my lane. Oh, jeez. No. Just as soon as you get to the city line, you just immediately feel like a major drop in IQ. Just a major drop in IQ. He's a Kia owner from, I don't know what state that is. It's not even New York State. Oh well. Ugh, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to do road rage around here. This road rage is stupid. I'm not going to die on that hill. I'm in no major hurries here. Oh man. Anyways, so tie back to this thought that I had. If Nissan wanted to do something totally awesome, this would be totally awesome. And I think that any car maker that does this would be totally amazing. Do a classic series. Come up with a classic series. So you got your regular stuff, your ugly, modern, egg-shaped cars for all you normies out there that have to have the egg-shaped cars with all the tech and everything like that. But then you have your classic section. And what you do is you start rebuilding or making new versions of the oldies with modern technology, but with good modern technology, not CVT crap, not EV crap. But so I could walk into the dealership and buy a brand new Datsun 610. And I know I'm dreaming here a little bit, but with a brand new 2.0 turbo, 5-speed rear-wheel drive. And just call it the Nissan Heritage Series or the Nissan Classic Series or whatever. And you could go in and literally buy, because they do that with guitars. I mean, think about it. You go in and you buy Fender, the American Vintage Series. You can go in and buy a vintage reissue, like 1957 Stratocaster, which is it's loosely based off of a 1957 Stratocaster. So you get the shape, they went so far as to try and duplicate the electronics. They duplicated the type of paint that it had. It has nitro paint on it and everything. And it's a 57 Stratocaster, but it's brand spanking new, and it's a vintage reissue series. Nissan would definitely do wonders if they did a vintage reissue of not just the Z-Car, because the Z-Car wasn't the only thing that carried Nissan back in the day. all the models were cool back in the 70s. Everything was cool. The 200SX, the Spaceship 200SX, I fucking love that car. It's radical. What a radical design. I'd even take a 310 Cherry. I'd take one of those because in the right configuration, those look cool. You know, the F10. I thought the F10 was cool, even though it was like, it's the ugliest car ever made. It was the first front-wheel drive car that Nissan ever made. I think it looks interesting. It's interesting. It's more interesting than anything right now. I'm looking at a Rogue. I couldn't be more bored just looking at this Rogue. This thing's awful. It looks terrible. I mean, yeah, it serves its purpose. My mom's got a Rogue. But that's my mom. You know, she's 73, 74 years old. You know, so a Rogue's perfect for that. The Rogue is not a car for me. I still got some fire in me. I'm not 80 years old. I got fire in me. I want to enjoy what I'm driving. I don't have to do 1,000. I don't need 1,000 horsepower either. I just want something that handles good on the road. The seats are comfortable. I can row some gears. I want it, it's picturesque, so if I go to a spot where there's a nice atmosphere or whatever, I'll put the car in the picture too, because the car looks good. It's part of the scenery. So I wish we could reanimate Mr. Katayama in his youthful days before he just became an icon, but his youthful fiery days when he was first dumped in the United States. He was basically essentially banished to the United States because he was so radically thinking, and Nissan was so conservative at the time that they're like, here, you just go to America. And look what he did. He did some amazing stuff. That guy, I totally love that guy. He came in here and he went full Americana. And that's why we have the Z car. That's why we have the 510. Because of him. Because he came out here and he was driving American highways and he goes, I see what Americans want. I see what Americans like, and I see what they need, and they just put it all together and came out with two classic smash hits, the 510 and the 610. Those are classics. The Z car, classics. So, all right. Well, I'm almost at my destination. I think I've said enough. I think that Nissan has a golden opportunity to make this body-on-frame rumor work out in their favor, but it's so fragile. It hinges on so many things and people get so easily disappointed with Nissan now that if we hear anything other than body on frame with a V6 and a manual, transfer case, if we hear anything other than that, if we hear EV, if we hear that it's got a bigger screen, if we hear that it's anything other than the purest form, I bet you it's going to fail. I bet you people are going to walk away from it like it's on fire. I really hope that that's not the case. I really hope that Nissan goes to the paperwork and says, we listen to you, we know what you want, we're going to make the ultimate apocalypse vehicle, we're going to make a Bronco killer and all that stuff. Lane says they probably do it for the Skyline because it gets glazed so hard, and they could change way more. Yeah, they should. I really think that they could. They've got so many good options in their grab bag of goodies that they should just go all out. I think that since the EPA is being shrunk anyways, that these manufacturers should whip their balls out and be like, and just teabag the EPA, teabag the EPA, and just go, here, look, sports car. Really not so much about aerodynamics anyways anymore. They make these engines efficient enough that you could make a brick efficient at this point. So, bringing back a 610 body or bringing back a Skyline body from back in the 70s, my God, could you imagine that? Could you imagine you could get yourself a brand new Hakasuka? Holy crap. People would put themselves in even more crushing debt to get something like that. That's insane. But we'll have to wait and see. Nissan has got a lot riding on this. I hate when people ham stuff up, and then all of a sudden, you know, they can't deliver it because they overpromised and underdelivered it. So Nissan has done that in the past as well. I mean, look at the Z. The Z car right now is not a good deal. You get a much better car or a much different car for the same price or less, which is sad. So, anyways, like, share, and subscribe, and you know, I will see you guys in another live video or some other video stuff coming up here in the near future. See ya.